almost got weird.
Date anyone.
Right.
And, people ridiculed him for that, saying you can't put restrictions on people like that. The curfew is the same thing. I mean, I understand some of these guys are 18 years old, but when you're in college, that's just part of it. You got to learn. Some guys can't handle it, and those guys need to leave the program. But you can't punish everybody. And I can see how that would just cause a nightmare in the locker room.
It could. And it all comes down to respect.
Yeah, so it's starting. The picture of this season is starting to come into a little bit clearer focus. Some of the reasons. Normally I would give a key to what Auburn has to do to win this game. I don't know. I just put a question mark on my sheet next to that. I don't know, really. I mean,
I think Auburn's key is continue some of the offensive success from the New Mexico State game if you can. I mean, Georgia has a really good defense. They've got one monster at linebacker in Jarvis Jones who can just take over a game. You've got to isolate him and make a couple big plays, and you got to make them early.
Yeah, that's the thing. Auburn has got to not do what it's done all season. If Georgia gets the ball first, they can't let Georgia march right down the field and score, which they've let virtually everyone else do. And Jonathan Wallace has got to find some offensive success early. Am I confident that those things can happen? Not really. So I would say the spread in this game is pretty reasonable. I'd probably take Georgia by 2 touchdowns and a field goal, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I'll take Georgia by about 22.
Yeah, so we'll see. Maybe Auburn can save their season. Maybe not. A game of intrigue as well happening across the state this weekend. Alabama and Texas A&M. But first, let's talk about Game of the Century Part 3.
Now, you can make fun of it because it was not nearly the game it was last year.
It was a much better game.
It was much more interesting.
Very entertaining.
It was entertaining from half all the way down to the end. Alabama looked horrible on defense, and Zach Mettenberger played the game of his life. He had the Steven Garcia game, which we were talking about last week. He would have to have in order to beat Alabama or to get close. He was on the money with a lot of his throws, only missing really 1 or 2 high like he normally does. The LSU ground game, Alabama didn't look like they could stop. They were getting outrun. They were on the field too long. They got worn down. And the LSU defense really locked down the Alabama offense in the second half, minus 1 drive.
Yep, 1 key drive. LSU had a lot of success with using big, bruising running style of Stephen Hill, the freshman running back that they have, and that really opened things up.
And the big offensive line really helped.
Yeah, so, and like you said, LSU proved that Alabama's offense is not perfect. It can be stopped. They were able to get a lot of pressure on A.J. McCarron.
Which he has not seen up until this point.
Yeah, he looked a little bit uncomfortable. And when you take away the passing attack, things get tougher for the running attack. We've mentioned all the time on this show that things just kind of snowball. And that's kind of what you saw. But we've also said on the show many times that good teams, great teams, find ways to win games.
That's right. And that's exactly
what happened.
That's exactly what Alabama did. Now, a lot of people are going to argue that LSU let them do it. It's a good point. I mean, backing off 20 yards on the coverage and letting a couple of quick 15-yarders get them in field goal range is a pretty dumb call when you've been getting them all week. So.
Absolutely. I think you can point to a number of boneheaded Les Miles decisions, which you can expect a couple each game. So you have to factor that into your analysis ahead of time.
Now, I do not agree with the one people are talking about with the onside kick. I think that was a good call.
That was a great call.
I think that they should have recovered and that the kicker needs to shut up on the sideline.
Yeah, Auburn has been the beneficiary of some of those types of onside kicks over the years. I'm always a fan of trying that. At this point, if you kick a touchback in the end zone, they're getting it at the 25 now anyway, so there's not that much difference. I mean,
and to that point, LSU had been shutting down Alabama's offense and continued to shut them down even after that.
So that was a great call. The fake field goal, that was stupid.
That was dumb. And then the 54-yard attempt after that.
Yeah, I mean, those were stupid Les Miles decisions. But really, the most boneheaded of them all, I don't know if it was Les Miles or the defensive coordinator John Chavis, playing prevent too early. I mean, what are you doing? I've seen that happen many times. I remember back in the Tuberville years at Auburn, it seemed like he would do that all the time and let the other teams get right back in the game. But if you've been aggressive and it's been working for you, you got to stick with it.
You do, and that has actually inspired my next article. Next week you will see, right after the Alabama preview, you will see a prevent defense on outputtingourcoverage.wordpress.com, so check that out.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. An Achilles heel for LSU in that game. So basically what I take from the Alabama-LSU game, Alabama's certainly not invincible.
They're not, but they are resilient.
They are a resilient team. Sometimes you can chalk up poor play in a game to maybe the guys just not being motivated, but that's definitely not the case here. I think Alabama was plenty motivated in this game. They were just getting beat for a while.
They were. How about the guys across the field? I mean, they were playing a really quality opponent.
Right, and also you really can't discount the Death Valley at night factor.
That's right.
I mean, geez, that
place was rocking.
It was, definitely. So let's take what we've learned from that game, move into this week's game, Alabama against a Texas A&M team that looked very solid against Mississippi State last week.
They did. One of the things I think A&M is going to have trouble with, though, is that they run a style that's a little bit different than LSU's in the fact they don't have a power running game. They do have an amazing offensive line, but they're more pass protectors than they are run blockers. Their style of offense is good against the Alabama defense because they run that hurry up. They're to the line quick. LSU had a lot of success with that. But I think the big key, if you're an Alabama fan, where you need to be worried about is in the last 3 weeks, Alabama has really struggled in the coverages, leaving some wide open receivers. They did it in the Mississippi State game, and it cost them once, and then there were a couple of overthrows due to pressure. I tell you what, Johnny Football's not going to miss those throws.
He's not, but like you mentioned, Texas A&M not having a big running back. They do have Christine Michael, but he's been used to limited success this year. The fact that they don't have that key rushing threat may allow Alabama to focus a little bit less on that run support and maybe double team some guys, take some precautions to bolster that pass coverage.
And they can, but the problem with that is Johnny Football runs too.
He does run, but you look at the Alabama game against Michigan, Denard Robinson, they were able to shut him down pretty well.
That's right.
Now, Texas A&M is a much better team than Michigan.
They are.
Let's make sure that's clear, but I'm not quite as seeing the concern for Alabama on defense in this game like some of the people I've talked to. I think LSU was a tougher matchup for them.
They were, and especially because it's a matchup they can't fix. The matchup problem for LSU or for Alabama against LSU was physical.
Right.
They were getting blown off the ball. A&M's not going to be able to do that. They're going to try to rely more on finesse. But one of the things in the LSU game that didn't get talked about a whole lot was the matchups between the slot receiver and some of Alabama's safeties and linebackers. They were getting burnt like you haven't seen all year, just on the complete speed. And A&M definitely has speed.
Yes, they do. If you look at some of the other games Texas A&M has had this season, they've been looking pretty hot lately, but they've had some squeakers earlier on. A 30-27 win over Ole Miss, and also a 17-20 loss versus a Florida team that still does not really have an offense.
But a Florida team who has looked good during the year.
Right, and they have a very solid defense. I'd say one that is comparable somewhat in scheme and definitely in talent to what Alabama can put on the field. So
definitely, I think that's a good comparison.
That should tell you something. Texas A&M's defense, not too great. They gave up 305 yards to Ole Miss quarterback Bo Wallace and 100-plus yards to Ole Miss's running back Jeff Scott.
Gave up 57 points against La Tech.
Yeah, so I think Alabama is going to be able to do what it wants offensively in this game.
But the problem Alabama needs to look at, it's like a basketball team who likes to run the floor. You don't want to run with that team.
No, you don't want to get in a track meet. You don't want to do that.
Alabama does not want a high-scoring game in this one.
Right. But speaking of speed, my key for this game, I think Alabama has to use their defensive speed to keep Johnny Football in check.
I agree.
That needs to happen, and the number one way you got to stop a running quarterback like this is you got to stay disciplined. And I think that's something that a Nick Saban coach defense is going to be a lot better at than many of the defenses you'll see.
I think so. I think my big key for the game is going to be let Yeldon do his work. That is one impressive human being.
He's a very impressive player. I think in a couple of years, maybe next year, he's going to be in the Heisman conversation for sure.
He'll be in the conversation, but I really don't think Alabama's going to change their style. I mean, they are set on this 2, 3, 4 running backs staple.
Yeah, but Alabama running back has won the Heisman Trophy using that style. So
that's true.
We'll see how that one plays out. I'm going to take Alabama in this game.
It's a 13.5 point spread.
Yeah, I think that's, I don't know, maybe even a little bit low. I would say Alabama maybe by 3 touchdowns in this one.
I'm going to say Alabama struggles early. They played a really physical game against LSU last week. They're a little beat up. It's hard to get up 2 weeks in a row. I'm going to say Alabama is going to win, but I only think it's going to be 7 or 10 points.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be under the spread.
I could be wrong, but I'm just not seeing the real close matchup that a lot of other people are.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
We will see how that one works out. We will also see if we can take a quick break here, which I believe we can. We'll be back right on the other side to talk about some of the other SEC games coming up this week here on Outputting Our Coverage.
I'm alright, nobody but about me. Why you got to give me a fight? Can't you just let it be? I'm alright, don't nobody but about me.
All right, we are back.
By the way, at some point we're going to have to start recording our off-air conversations and putting them up on a different link.
Just a quick recap. David has determined that he is now too old to go to a rock concert.
Yeah, at the ripe old age of 24.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I'm not real big on people or events.
Now, don't get me wrong.
Traffic.
It was great. The music was wonderful. It was loud.
It's very loud, huh?
And very bright.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyway.
It happens.
Yeah.
You get old, you turn into a curmudgeon.
But we did it to celebrate mine and my wife's 5-year anniversary. So just want to give a quick shout out to, by the way, she is your football fantasy. If you go to our blog.
Man. Identity reveal right there.
Yeah.
That was nuts. That's why you listen to the show every week, because the drama just builds and you never know what you're going to find out.
It just happened.
Yeah, that just happened. Yeah. A couple of games that will happen this weekend. Let's start with Arkansas, South Carolina. In my mind, not much of a chance of an upset here.
Blah, blah, blah. South Carolina wins.
Definitely a certain running back that cannot be named will not be playing in this game.
Right. He will not, and we're moving on.
Yes.
Ugh.
Moving on from there.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Vanderbilt and Ole Miss.
All right.
I think
Exciting stuff.
This might be a good matchup.
I think it would. Ole Miss with their running attack, although they're a little bruised with the egos going into Georgia, so getting pummeled on that one. Vandy with a pretty impressive win, impressive enough to get rid of the coach.
Yeah, we've been talking about the Joker Phillips Fire Watch here weekly on Outputting coverage.
They're going to let him finish the season.
Yes, so I don't know if this counts or not. I can't remember what our over/under was. We went way over.
Games.
We went way over.
Yeah.
That happened. But, Vandy did look very solid. An interesting stat, Vanderbilt has only given up 4 passing touchdowns this entire year.
Well, that's pretty interesting, but I think that stat's pretty irrelevant on Mississippi because they love to run the ball.
They do like to run the
But
ball.
Bo Wallace,
We've seen Bo Wallace put up
passing.
some big numbers.
That's
so
right. Yeah.
I think that could be a factor here. Vanderbilt, this is a game that if they want to take a step to the next level, James Franklin, their head coach, keeps talking about bumping them up from what people traditionally think of as Vanderbilt. This is a game in my mind they have to win to do that.
They do, and it's unfortunate they're not going to get as much credit as they deserve if they do win it.
Right.
Just because it's Ole Miss.
But Ole Miss is a very good team this year.
They are, but not a whole lot of people are paying attention.
Right.
I think this would be a big win for Vandy.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. I think Vanderbilt is going to be solid defensively like they've been all year. I think they can do just enough on offense to get it done. And Ole Miss has been inconsistent at times this year. I'm going with the Commodores here.
Okay. Well, it's a 3.5-point matchup, so it could go either way. But I am actually going to go with Ole Miss. I think they're going to be upset about how bad they got beaten by Georgia. I think they're going to come out and really stick it down Vandy's throat. They might be a little cocky after that Kentucky game. So I'm going to go with the old Rebels.
All right. We'll see how that one goes.
Or they're not the Rebels anymore. They're the Black Bears.
The Rebel Black Bear.
Right.
It's a trap, Admiral Akbars.
Yes, right.
That is who they are. This game is on the Big Ten. Alabama, Texas A&M on the Big Ten. Auburn, Georgia on the Big Ten as well.
And if you still haven't signed up for the Big Ten, it is not too late. You can win each week's award.
You can still beat both of us each week.
Pretty
very
much.
easily. So
Go to funofficepools.com, search Outputting our coverage, or you can just go to our Twitter or Facebook accounts and get on from there.
yeah, it's that simple. That's how we do things here. It may not be that simple for Derek Dooley to keep his job.